What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of epic conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. I just want to share that I was the 2018 award winner for innovation given out by the Canadian Epic Media Association, and we're broadcasting live on November 27th. So for all my American viewers who are watching live, happy Thanksgiving. We're going to have a little bit of feedback here because unfortunately our friend doesn't have earbuds, so we'll work through it. No problem. Our new friend, as you always know, I like to have new friends on the Dr. Vibe Show, is Mr. Lawrence Wilbon. He serves as Business Development Manager of Fathers Incorporated with over 20 years of nonprofit experience. He is tasked in assisting the organization with funds development and strategic partnerships. Prior to his current position, he has served as an executive director of a local nonprofit. He's married with 2 children and resides in the metro Atlanta area. So just a little background on Fathers Incorporated. It's a widely recognized American and international nonprofit organization supporting fathers, practitioners, researchers, and policymakers that provide capacity building services to thousands of organizations, working to ensure that fathers contribute to the healthy well-being of their children. So tonight, we're going to be talking about an event that happened back in September, and Mr. Wilbon is so busy, we finally got him on. And we're going to talk about the Million Fathers March that a lot of people have asked me. They want to know more about it. So we'd like to welcome for the first time, but not for the last time, Mr. Lawrence Wilbon. How are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing well, doing very well.
It is a pleasure to get you on. I know you and I went back and forth with schedules, but you are finally here with us. So thank you so much for taking the time to share with us this evening. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, like I like to do with everyone who comes on for the first time on the Dr. Vibe Show, can you share a little background about yourself before you arrived with Fathers Incorporated?
Sure. So, as it was mentioned in the bio, I've had over 20 years experience working in the nonprofit world. Actually, I am originally from Ohio, and then made my way to Kentucky after graduating from college, from the Ohio State University. Worked for years for a nonprofit where I became the executive director. And then after that point, I began working with the Urban League. And so I worked for the Urban League for a number of years as their director of education youth development. My family and I made a decision through prayer that we were moved to Atlanta to care for my then ailing mother-in-law. And so we moved here and was fortunate that I was able to get planted and connected pretty quickly with Fathers Incorporated.
Excellent. And I will make sure I see it right. The Ohio State University right now. Yes.
The Ohio State University.
I know about that. So I just wanted to make sure that I know how to respect you and address you from the Ohio State University.
I
there you go. The number
that.
1 rated college football team in America at the moment.
Absolutely.
Now, it seems that you've had a journey in the world of nonprofit. Why did you what made you go that route in nonprofits?
You know, I know you mentioned the feedback, but I lost that last question.
I'm just saying that you've had a long journey through the world of nonprofits. How did you get started? Or what drove you to take that path as a career or as a passion?
Wow. Well, you know what's interesting? I often tell people I grew up with a single female household mother who was a strong mother, but we also grew up in poverty, and so because of that, I made it my life's work to be able to impact lives of many folks because of that. So that's how I got on this journey of doing nonprofit work. And then I have a special story of how I got into the fatherhood
So
space.
before we get into the fatherhood space, when you decided to take that route, did you get any pushback from anyone saying, they're wondering, why are you going that route?
Well, what was interesting is that I went to college. I had my mind was set from day one to become an attorney, from day one, because I wanted to make money. Simply, there was no other, innate reason besides want to make money. And so it wasn't until I was in my junior year, in my senior year, beginning of my senior year, I met a young man who was in and out of the juvenile detention center. And I knew at that moment that I can impact his life. And because I can impact his life, I can impact so many more folks' life. Now, I got in this work knowing that I would never be rich. And folks will ask the question, you say to me, you'll never be rich doing that type of work. But my pay for the work that I'm doing is what I get in return from those that I've helped.
Excellent. I just want to shout out some people who are watching live on the Get Vocal platform. We have Ryan, my man out in Alberta, Canada, and also have Bobby from the US of A. We also have some people chiming in via Periscope. We have Mauli Chai from the Greater Toronto area, and we have Serena Wills, great advocate of ovarian cancer and so many other things. Thank you both for sharing this conversation on Twitter. You said you had an interesting story on how you got involved in the father space. Would you like to share that with us, please?
Sure. So not knowing that I ever would be connected into doing this work, but as I mentioned earlier, I was raised by a single mother who did everything she could, and I longed for years to wanting to know my father. And it wasn't, so I went through my elementary years, my up through high school, through college years, and never had the opportunity to meet him. Not until I was about 35. And when I met him at 35, I knew everything that was missing in my life at that moment began to click. I saw where I had my height from. I'm 6'2", 6'3". My family is typically 5'8". And so I was the tallest person among my entire family. And so at that moment, I saw my height. I was able to see some of my facial features. And it was a moment in my life where I felt like that part of the chapter of my life was closed. I finally was able to see and meet the man that I call my father now. Our relationship lasted probably 3 years afterwards, where he actually passed away from cancer. So, I have that story. I was able to meet him before he actually transitioned.
Well, my condolences on the last loss of your father. But
Thank you.
Great victory that you had a chance to meet and have him impact your life in a turnaround way for 2 years. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you.
What special qualities did your mother possess?
So my mother was a very hard worker. I remember growing up, and typically she would have 2 to 3 jobs at a time. My mother was the individual that would inspire my siblings and I to be the best that we could be. My mother would share with us, I don't care what you become in life, just do better than me. That was her motto. Just do better than me. I don't care what you become. And my mother was an individual, and I'll never forget this. We grew up on government assistance most of my life. And I remember I think it was probably in middle school, my mother said that her receiving $326 a month to take care of her family was not enough. So my mother actually went to
Oh,
college. She went to college and got a computer programming degree. And so she was such an inspiration because she went to college so many years, and it was never too late for her to get that degree. My mother ended up becoming a caseworker. How ironic that I went into social work, but she became a caseworker, and she did that for 20 years, working for the Department of Human Services in Ohio. So wonderful woman, uh, very strong, very committed. Um, I if you look at how I live my life, I'm a mirror of my mother. So my mother actually, unfortunately, passed away 7
oh,
years ago, and I'm able to, be able to stand on her shoulders because of the work she's
did
done.
she have a chance to see you graduate from the Ohio State University? All
She was right there,
right.
right there. She was there. She was there at graduation. Um, she was there at my excuse me, at my wedding. I've been married 20 years, so she was at my wedding. Um, so yeah, so she was there at pivotal points at the children. She was there, but 7 years ago she actually transitioned.
Well, my condolences again, but again, such great
Thank you.
victory stories about both your parents. That's fantastic. Let's transition on. How did you get involved with Fathers Incorporated?
So it's funny. So I moved to Atlanta. And, I have a skill set that's unique, I believe is unique. And so I would apply for positions in Atlanta, and I was getting turned down by every position, which is interesting. I would get that call back, you're just too overly qualified. And, I would say to them, well, let me determine if I'm overly qualified, um, because at this point I need a job. Um, and so a friend of mine, several friends of mine, from my work that I did in Kentucky, knew of the work of Kenneth Braswell and the work of Fathers Incorporated. And so there was this conversation went back and forth where it was like, you need to meet him. He's a wonderful person. Y'all will click immediately, all this good stuff. And so I reached out to Kenny, and we met, and the day I met with him, I literally sat in this office for 3 hours and talked to him. And from that moment, there was an instant connection, and this connection became a brotherhood. And so initially, I started helping write in a couple grants and assisting in that manner. And since then, I've been able to come on as a full-time director.
What do you remember about that first meeting with Kenneth?
Say
What
it
do you
again?
remember about the first meeting you had with Kenneth, that first 3 hour meeting?
It was interesting because he and I have like experiences. We shared our experiences of meeting our fathers. I believe he was like 20. He was in his 20s. I was 35. Um, Both of us are men of faith. So we were able to talk about that. We were, both fathers, very proud of our children. Um, but what I remember the most is how committed and dedicated he is to this work. And, what he says that this is his calling and that he's been given a calling to speak to the hearts of men. And so when he said that, it spoke to my heart. And so it was an instant connection.
Fantastic. For those who aren't familiar with Fathers Incorporated, especially I have viewers all around the world, what does Fathers Incorporated do? Actually, yeah, what does it do? I'll stop there and just say what does a great organization do?
Sure. So Fathers Incorporated, our mission is simply is to engage, equip, and empower a community of network of fathers and families by creating an environment of support, parental education, positive societal narratives, and a father-focused blueprint to elevate honestly the awareness of responsible fatherhood. And so we want. I know it's lofty and it's big, but it's definitely worth. It's definitely worth. We want to elevate this conversation about responsible fatherhood. You know, there's data that shows, and you may be aware of it, that when a father is involved in the life of their children are less likely to be involved in negative activities. They're less likely to self-medicate, but they're more likely to have higher uh, uh, success in
Positive outcome.
academics, higher success in just their trajectory of their lives. And so, what we do is we do a lot of work through messaging, through through helping change the narrative. We do work where we're doing direct service, where we're actually doing training with fathers on how to stick in there and to become a stronger father. We work with practitioners and showing them how to engage men in their programs, because there's a lot of systems out there that push fathers out of the equation. And so we push and we teach on how to incorporate fathers more into those narratives. And so we're doing a lot of work locally, but our work definitely is reached nationally.
How do you feel the challenges of fatherhood have changed, if any, since the time you got involved with the organization?
Um, well, I think as a team, what and now I'll say as a part of the team, I think our reach has gotten further. We've expanded our footprint. We've I think the narrative of responsible fatherhood is now becoming on the forefront and on the lips of so many folks. There was a time when we would walk into spaces and we would have to ask one question: "What about dad?" Because we were being a room full of women, and these are practitioners working in nonprofit work, and they're talking about strengthening families, but dad was never part of the conversation. I think our work now is bringing dad into that conversation. There have been a couple organizations here in the city where they were doing healthy babies, healthy mothers as a title. Now it's healthy babies, healthy families. So now fathers are now being included in that work.
What are some of the toughest challenges you think fathers are going through? And actually, we're coming to an end of a decade. What are some of the challenges you feel that fathers are facing as we end a decade and we start a new decade?
Well, I think some of the things I think society has created a narrative that is completely untrue, that fathers do not want to be involved in their children's lives. Um, and so I think that's a challenge. That's something that we're going to have to continue to work towards and help change that. I do think there are barriers still that are out there as far as when you look at some of our systems. When I talk about systems, I'm talking about child support. I'm talking about the education system, where a father is not the parent on record, then they don't have access to their children's information at school. I'm talking about, the systems of, TANF and the systems of how the housing authority. You have these systems that are there that believe that we're going to go ahead and give support and resources to mom, but dad, you got to fend for yourself. And we understand that there are a lot of challenges out there of why dad has to fend for himself. And so some of those things could be unemployment. So there's so many different challenges, but I think we're fighting against a narrative that's out there that's not true. And then we're fighting against also those systems that have been put in place so that dads cannot thrive and succeed.
Excellent. Well, I'll come back to more of the work of your organization in a moment, but I also want to have a little review of this Million Fathers March. And on the start of that, how did it come into being and how has it grown? And also the success of this year's march.
Absolutely. So back in 1996, Philip Jackson with the Black Star Project in Chicago started the Million Fathers March. Philip led this work, did an amazing job. Unfortunately, about 2 years ago, Philip transitioned, passed away. But before he passed away, he asked if Kenny would take the helm of this charge and continue this work and move it forward. And so Kenny took on the challenge, and Fathers Incorporated took on a challenge and continued to push the work forward. For those that don't know, Father will know what it is, but a Million Fathers March is really just a virtual day where we're asking for as many fathers as possible to sign up to take their child to school and to engage in other activities with the school to show a united front of involvement and engagement on a particular day. So this year, our day was on September the 27th. And so our theme for this year was Real Dads Read, which is a signature program of Fathers Incorporated, where we're encouraging fathers to do a literacy activity, engage fathers in reading with their children as a way of bonding with their children. And so this year, when we look at some of our success, we had over 81 cities from across the country that signed up. 81 cities, including five school districts that signed up for the march, including Baltimore City Schools. If we look at our impact, we had about 78,000 dads on that one day. 78,000 dads who participated in the march and took their kids to school on that one day. With the impact, now get this, of students that we impacted, of almost 450,000 students. 450,000 students. You had dads, black dads, white dads, Latino dads, Asian dads, all on this day coming across every barrier, making sure they were there for their kids on this particular day. It was such an amazing movement.
So where were you on the actual day of the march?
So we had a targeted school here in Atlanta, in Agnes Jones Elementary, and we started some work with them earlier in the year, and that was our target school. And so that day, what we did leading up to the big day is that we would push. We would send out flyers home with the students of the school to encourage their dads to come and walk them to school that day. We partnered with the Atlanta Gladiators hockey team, and so they were there along with their mascot. And then we got media attention around it. And so there were dads that were impacted, and then they marched their kids to school. It was such a festive event. And, it was interesting to see the looks on the children's faces because they felt very empowered because their dad was there. And, that's one of the things we try to push is that, Dad, you have a special role and place in the life of your children. Show up when all is possible.
Wonderful. That's a heck of a lot of people. 450,000 people.
Absolutely.
Has this been the most successful march to date?
Well, you know what? I will say this. I wouldn't know if I could measure as the most successful. What I do know is that this year we were more intentional about the way we're able to calculate our numbers, more intentional of how we're able to monitor the different sites. We have more folks who was using our social media platform and tweeting and sharing photos, and we have more folks, in which caused us to have thousands and thousands of pictures from across the country for this one day. And so I think it gave us a platform to be able to, from this point, be able to build on it for next year, because now we're able to, kind of monitor and be able to capture all the data that we need to be able to measure our
That is
success.
great. And just joining us on the Get Vocal platform is the great Dr. Tachi, who hosts one of the not one of the livest online streaming conversations about media, tech, and pop culture called Mediascope. Actually, she was on earlier on this evening. She's on 5 p.m. on Instagram Live, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and then 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook Live and Periscope. Welcome, Dr. Tachi. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. This Million Fathers March has been quite a success. What are some of the other services that you offer organizations, institutions to, or fathers directly?
Well, before I answer that question, one thing I wanted to mention as we look at the Million Fathers March and we're looking into 2020, we're looking to definitely, we want to partner with you. So there's that. But we want that to happen because we want to make sure that the Million Fathers March goes more and more nationally, but we want to go international as well. And so we want to make sure we keep that in the forefront of your mind as we begin to start planning for the upcoming year. As far as other services that we offer for other organizations, and we have an extensive training um, um, curriculum, training modules that we have where we can actually train practitioners to how to engage fathers more in their work. We do understand that from federal legislation, there are some federal legislation coming down for those that are receiving some federal dollars that they're stating that they have to be more intentional in involving fathers in their work. And so we actually have the tools, the research, the resources to be able to help organizations. And so, people can reach out to us, and we're willing to travel just to make sure that information is actually spread and out there. And then we also have different documentaries and videos and other curriculum that that we can train practitioners in, that they then can train their clients with as well. So we're a wealth full of
Wonderful.
resources.
Let me ask, and it's not dealing directly with the Fathers Incorporated, but with the fathers in general. And a lot of people may not realize how much of an impact does a father's relationship with his father have on his parenting?
Well, it's interesting. There are some people that we have in our network that are able to tell the beautiful story of their relationship with their father. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I don't have that story, but they were able to share. They're able to share. Remember their fathers being at every game, being at every academic award ceremony. Being there when they're able to go and talk to them about when they hit puberty and what are they supposed to expect. Being able to help them navigate through some tough challenges and decisions. And so hearing those type of stories makes me realize the importance of having a father in your life prior to you becoming a father. Because we learn from our parents, we learn what to do and sometimes what not to do from our parents. And so if you have a good father in your life, you could benefit a lot from that good father and what you can do when you're then raising your children.
I know it. I say that it's your show because you're the friend. Do you mind me giving you a quick fatherhood story?
You said give you a quick father story?
Quick father story for you in the audience.
Yeah, sure. So I have two children, an 11-year-old and a 10-year-old. And what I love most about being a father is being able to, that, we laugh because they tell my wife that I'm the fun parent. Because when she's out of town, we do fun stuff. We'll when she doesn't do those those things, and so I think that our relationship, specifically with my son, I'm able to see him grow as becoming this young man, and I'll tell you, I'm a little hard on him because unfortunately, when I look at him, and because he's a young man of color, the world is not going to be as easy on him. And so I try to help him with some of these things that he needs to get together before he becomes 18 and be considered an adult. And so I'm hard on him. I'm tough on him, but it's definitely the love that's there. The same as with my daughter. I'm tough on her, but it's a little different when you have a daughter. You know what I'm saying? You can look in her eyes, and there's something that melts your heart when you look in her eyes. And so, but yeah, being a father has been, I told somebody a couple years ago, my children saved my
Wow.
life. You know, my wife is a very strong, very great woman. And, we wanted children so early on in our marriage. But as I said, we've been married 20 years, and we have an 11-year-old and we have a 10-year-old. And so they say they saved our lives. And so we've been able to grow as a unit, and there's no stopping us now.
Wonderful. I'll just add on, I got my own quick father story. A recent one. My father is still alive, and I hadn't called him for a few days. And
Uh-huh.
what he ended up doing was calling people, like calling nieces and nephews, saying, "What's going on with him?" And then the other day he just I called him and he said, "I just wanted to hear your voice." So I really, that's my own little fatherhood story.
I like it. I
Yeah,
like it.
so that is great. Uh, so what is the future? What's 2020 looking like for Fathers Incorporated?
It's busy. So one of the things, one thing we're working on, um, and it's going to be research based, is we're doing something called the blueprint. And so we're writing a blueprint, reimagining the narrative of the modern Black dad. And so we're writing this. We have researchers right now. Kenny is in his lending his subject matter expertise to it, and this is going to explore some of the questions you asked earlier. What are some of the barriers? What's going on specifically around Black dads? So there's a blueprint that's going to come out within 2020. Another thing that we're kicking off, which is a huge initiative we're going to do, and this is going to be national. We're kicking off our Black Dads Count Census
Oh,
2020 push. So if you look at the census and if you look at the hard to serve population, there's a lot of data that shows that the people that are missing look like you and I, and they are males. And so what we're doing is we're creating a campaign where we're mobilizing our outreach team to make sure that the message of the importance of why you should be counted by the census, because that's where legislation decides
yep,
to put money based on where those counts are. And if you live in an impoverished community and you're not counted, the money skips over your community.
exactly.
And so we want to make sure that folks know that they need to be counted. As we look when the census come and go, Black dads count still matter because we got voter registration. We still have an important role in the 2020 election. And so we have quite a few things that are on the horizon outside of expanding our footprint with our direct service work that we're doing, expanding our team to make sure that we're able to meet more of the needs, working with some large partners like the Division of Child Support, work with those partners, and really making sure that dads are able to be able to succeed and thrive in their lives.
As you go into 2020, what do you feel is the organization's biggest challenge?
I'm gonna say this because I'm the money man. So I'll say one of our largest challenges is really securing all the funding that we need because the need out there is so great. And so I would say that would be one of our challenges because it's I always tell people want to give to babies and they want to give to kids and they want to give to animals, seniors as well. And so when you have a unique group where you're talking about empowering fathers, elevating this conversation, it takes time to develop relationships with folks for them to buy into what you're actually doing. So I would think that would be one of our challenges going forward.
I agree with you. And for those who may or may not know, I work in this space in Toronto and nationally also. And when you share this message, people get it, but then are they willing to open up their wallets?
Right.
And nothing against it. If we were speaking in regards to helping mothers, seems that more than enough money goes to help mothers. And no offense, but again, we're thinking family, not just one head of the home, but the others. So I think that I fully agree with you. North of the border, it's the same challenge. And that's why I'm looking forward to collaborating with this organization to take it internationally, to take it globally, because it's so important because we're dealing with the future. The future. Let me ask, along your journey, can you share a success story that you've had personally being involved with Fathers Incorporated?
So I lost you a little bit. Share a success story.
Share your success story anytime, like you've been with Fathers Incorporated a while. Can you share a success story that you felt personally being involved with the organization?
Absolutely. So, one of the success stories that I remember so vividly was our team was working with a father who was going through a custody issue, and he had some barriers, he had some challenges to help him, to overcome some of those issues. And so working with our team and working with our partners, we were able to actually help him secure employment, help him secure, a safe place where he could live. And then after a while, he was able to then be able to work with the custody, be able to gain some custody time with his children. And so those stories, those opportunities that's why we wake up every morning and head into work, into the office.
Nothing could be better said than that. Any last words you'd like to share with our audience before we let you go? Because I know you've had a long day, and I don't want to keep you up too long. And plus, you've got Thanksgiving weekend coming up.
Yeah, the kitchen. There's food as we speak being cooked. No, it's being cooked right now. So tomorrow.
I'd like to be the taste tester. If you need a volunteer.
Absolutely. I think we could ship you a plate or two. I would just say I want to thank you for the opportunity for allowing Fathers Incorporated this platform, and for us to be able to share our great work and then share about the work of Million Fathers March. As I mentioned, we're looking to expand the work internationally and then even globally. I'm glad you mentioned that earlier, because we actually have a partner in Belize that want to expand his work in Belize, and so we want to expand it. So I appreciate you for this platform and your friendship. And then I also want to just for those that are out there who may need in need of our services, we're at fathersincorporated.com. You can reach out to us and we will meet your needs as best as possible. If there's training needs, our team is well equipped to travel and to be able to help you meet those needs. And so, again, thank you, Dr. Vi, for this opportunity.
Well, the pleasure is mine, and I am very excited about what I've been privileged to do with Kenneth and yourself, and can't leave out Tamika. And I'm sure there are others that I don't know about, and hopefully I'll know about down the road. And I'm very much looking forward to this opportunity, and just let everyone know from my end, you have a home here. You have a home here. So I'm speaking it. There will be many conversations like this coming up in 2020, and looking forward to help it grow, because I found out in my journey, especially helping fathers and men, that when you help someone, there's still another person that needs to be helped.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it. So everyone, Fathers Incorporated, go check them out if there's anything that any fathers you think need help with. And as the road gets, it'll become global. So definitely, they're doing the right thing, and they're doing wonderful things. I'm Dr. Vibe. I'm host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations. If you want to watch conversations like this or hear anything about me, just go to my website, thedrvibeshow.com. I'd like to thank a number of people that watch this live on the Get Vocal platform. We have Gabe, we have Dr. Tachi, we have Ryan, we have Bobby. Thank you so much. I shout out some people who are watching it on the Periscope platform. Great. Someone was also watching on YouTube. So thanks for watching live or listening live. Check it out on the replay. As always, I like to say, live your life as a dream if you can dream it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. And again, anyone who's watching this live, if you're a U.S. citizen, wherever you are in the world, happy Thanksgiving. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. And if you say from my heritage, walk good. Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night. Thank you so much.